Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bullitt for explanation of the bill and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. For those members that were in the Economic Development Committee yesterday, we heard House Bill 5. House Bill 5, as we know today, is identical to Senate Bill 5, which is before us. Over the past number of years, as we've dealt with economic development issues, moving this state forward, how do we attract good employers to this state who will bring jobs that will employ our Kentuckians? We've heard comments such as, we need a tool in the toolbox. We need to check off the box. We need something that's a game changer. We need something that gets us in the running. Ladies and gentlemen, before us today we have Senate Bill 5, and it does just that. Senate Bill 5 takes $350 million from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. That Budget Reserve Trust Fund right now is about $1.9 billion. That was from the diligent efforts of the current chairman of the A&R Committee and the previous chairman of the A&R Committee, the leadership of this House, and many others who strove to build that fund up. That allows us today to place this piece of legislation before us to make it a very important move that will help us in the economic development realm. So it takes $350 million from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund and places it in the Economic Development Fund from the Economic Development Cabinet. And it's there to provide forgivable loans for corporations and businesses that meet certain standards. They must have a minimum investment of $2 billion. That minimum investment really narrows the pool of companies and businesses that would be able to take advantage of this. And let me say straight up that this is not a check that is given to a business when they decide to locate in the state. As I said, this is a loan that will be based upon criteria that the Economic Development Cabinet establishes. There will be thresholds that these businesses are required to meet. There'll be deadlines that they're required to meet. And the Cabinet will work to ensure that with proper reporting to the General Assembly. Every November, the Cabinet will be required to provide a report to the General Assembly, which will be forwarded on to the appropriate legislative committees that would oversee that, have jurisdiction. I can assure you, as long as this leadership in the House allows me the opportunity to serve as chairman of the Economic Development Workforce Investment Committee, I will make sure that we dig into that report and the status of this fund as long as I have the opportunity to do that. So this allows the Economic Development Cabinet to have a new tool there at their disposal as they reach out, as these businesses decide and talk to the folks in the Cabinet about moving here. Now, this particular bill has kind of gained the traction that it's associated with one specific location in Hardin County, Glendale, Kentucky. I know some news sources were reporting that that was in my district. That is not. That is represented by the gentleman from Hardin 25. But the focus seems to be on that location, that this fund that's being set up is not restricted to that location. It's available for any business that desires to move to the Commonwealth and meets the criteria that's set out here. And it's my understanding through preliminary discussions with the Cabinet, there could be 4 to 5 companies or businesses that are interested in taking advantage of this plan if enacted by the General Assembly. So what else does this bill do? Well, Section 2 authorizes the use of the land that I just mentioned in the Glendale area in Hardin County. That's about 1,500 acres. That land was purchased and set up and established as an industrial area back during the Paul Patton administration in 2002. So this has been around for a while. So this bill will authorize the use of that property, that the entity, the local industrial authority that oversees that, to enter into discussions, contracts, however, to establish that land for that business. And this sets that up in Section 2. Section 3, there is still a balance due, and this $10.639 million will be used to pay off the loans with the land in Hardin County. So that's what Section 3 will do. Section 4 and 5 are exciting because I think they yield a great opportunity for the state in that we are appropriating money from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund to the Bluegrass State Skills Corporation and also to the KCTC Trans Program for skilled workforce training and for education and further training for employees of potential companies that would locate in this particular area. And this training program and this workforce development in this area, these entities will have to meet the same criteria. As I mentioned earlier, they would have to have at least a minimum of $2 billion in investment. Section number 6 of the bill appropriates $25 million to the Budget Reserve Trust Fund that will go to KCTCS to construct an on-site training center in this area. Will bring great value to that community and to the jobs and to the economic development of that area. Section 7 basically says that the appropriations that we're allocating here will not lapse and they'll be carried forward. There is no deadline on this. This allows the Economic Development Cabinet to utilize this tool in the future for other companies that may attempt to or decide to locate here, and the Cabinet enters into negotiations with them. And then finally, Section number 8 of the bill is an emergency clause. When we pass this legislation tonight and it goes to the governor, and I'm assuming he will sign it, Mr. Speaker, then it will become effective immediately. Yesterday, during testimony in committee, folks from the Economic Development Cabinet, Katie Smith there, testified of the parameters that are set out that the Cabinet follows. They have a long list of criteria that they follow on loans. Forgivable loans are not something that's new to them. They engage in those now. We're just kind of ratcheting this up to a larger amount to attract the larger companies that will literally employ thousands and have the potential to employ thousands in the state. The way this will work is, and this money will not flow out immediately. We won't be seeing it leaving in the next month or two. This is going to be at least a year-long process as these companies are vetted, as they go through the whole process of answering questions, entering into contracts, providing information to the Cabinet. And then how the forgivable loan works is based upon the metrics that the Cabinet has established that they have to meet and the criteria. As they meet that, if they meet at least 90% of what's been outlined, then they'll have 100% payment on the forgivable loan for that particular phase or period of the development. So another example would be if they only met 50% of the criteria, they would get a 50% forgivable loan, and the remaining 50% they would be responsible for coming back and making up. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this gives Kentucky a great opportunity here. As I said earlier, I listed the things that we hear. It's very frustrating for me because of the position that I hold in the General Assembly, and I'm thankful for that, when I learn of companies that bypass Kentucky and they'll say, Kentucky's a great state and you've got a lot to offer, but you were just, you were short in some areas, but we found another state that was more attractive or had what we were looking for, we shouldn't have to hear that. In my opinion, Kentucky is the best state in the Union. It's God's country. Bullitt County is the best county. No, Hardin County too. Yeah, I hear you. No, I say that, but I say that in jest, but Kentucky is a great state, and it's unfortunate that we do have to hear those stories where we have companies that bypass us and leave us, and this provides us an opportunity to sit at the table and negotiate for the large corporations that we can bring here that, as I said, will employ the folks in our state. I'll end, and then I will move for adoption. We've heard a lot of things said today about the process in the last few days of the special session. I will say this about this bill. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with members of both parties in this House. I have had numerous members come to me with questions. If I could not answer the question, I've tried to get questions for them. I've had members of the minority party come to me and say, you know, we're interested in this, but we just need a little more information. And I've talked to them and I've helped them because this is a good bill. This is something that I believe in. I believe it will be good for the state. And Mr. Speaker, I'm going to end on that, and I will move for the adoption of Senate Bill 5.